Futures Radio Show, sponsored by CME Group, the world's leading and most diverse futures and options exchange. CME Group's markets help individuals and businesses around the world effectively manage risk. For access to free educational tools and resources for the active individual trader, please visit activetrader.cmegroup.com.
Every day, traders and investors dive in to tackle the ever-changing markets to find opportunity. Futures Radio Show is your number one source for answers to the questions that all market participants want to ask. Veteran futures trader Anthony Crudele sits down with the most influential leaders and top traders in the industry. Now, here's your host, Anthony Crudele.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for this episode with Lahre. Remember, new shows are posted on Mondays and Thursdays. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes and YouTube. If you're enjoying the show, please leave a review on iTunes. Before I play today's interview for you, I want to give a shout out to the great sponsors of Futures Radio Show: CME Group, Trading Technologies, RJO Futures, and Top Step Trader. To learn more about these sponsors and the important things they are doing for futures traders, be sure to click on their logos on our website. Today I spoke with veteran futures trader and co-founder of Croptomize, Lahre. I always go to Q when I have questions about the ags, and boy, are they flying around these days. Q gives us insight on corn and beans, process for managing trades in this type of volatility, what and how deep learning is used in their strategy, thoughts on artificial intelligence in futures markets, and last but not least, Q talks about the importance of traders finding balance in their life and doing things outside of trading to become better traders. So without further ado, let me take you right to the interview with Q. Q, what's going on?
Not much, Anthony. It's good to be back on the show with you.
It's always great to have you back on the show, Q. So is anything going on in corn?
Are you kidding me? You have to be under a rock not to see that these days, especially if you're on Twitter. Of course, we've had huge rain events out here in the Midwest and flooding and stuff that's very similar to, the levels we saw up and down the rivers in 1993. But it's happening earlier in the crop year when we're having trouble getting the corn crop in, especially across, the eastern central corn belt with Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. So we're still talking about having, 10, 11 million acres out there of corn still unplanted, 6th of June. And for all intents and purposes, it should be, all of it 1 or 2% in. So, the market's very, very skittish. We're talking about dropping some yield. And, of course, we just had WASDE come out about, an hour ago. And, they've dropped the corn numbers from, down to 166 in the yield. And a lot of the people like myself, I thought they were going to come down a little bit more modestly at this stage and get to this maybe next month. But the USDA has decided to get the pain over with all at once. So, we got corn up, 12, 13 cents again today, and we've had a 90-cent rally. So it's been a good stiff rally for the corn and for the farmers who actually have the corn sitting out there to get rid of. So it's been a bit fortunate for them, but not for the people who can't get the stuff in. I know people laugh at me for being up in southern Minnesota, but the corn up here looks as good as I've ever seen it. So they got it all in. It's all looking pretty decent from what I can tell. And same, right over the state line there in Iowa, in this part of Iowa. So, there's going to be people who have a pretty decent corn crop this year, and some are really, really struggling and not even going to be able to get it in if they don't get it in next week.
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
1995, we had some late stuff. We're still about 8% behind that group, maybe 10. So, this is a little bit historical as far as lateness, but not absolutely, off the charts outlier from a statistical standpoint. But, the real problem also is the flooding out there up and down the rivers, causing some navigation issues. So anyway, like I said, there's parts of the corn belt that are looking, pretty decent, got it all in, got good rain on it, and others these guys can't even get in the fields.
How big of a problem is this in general? Is this affecting, we see the prices and I understand the market side of things, but how big of a problem is this for the farmers?
I think this is a real big, a real problem for the American farmer. You know, we've talked about this before, Anthony. 2008, 10, and 12, brought some, a lot of more competition into the markets, and people don't realize that Brazilian corn crops coming in right now. I mean, they're harvesting right now, and they've got 100 million tons, and 20 years ago they had nothing. So, the 100 million tons is right at 4 billion bushels. So, this is coming on the market right now, which is probably why we're seeing corn in the 4s and not in the 5s. But having said that, the Brazilian real, the dollar's very strong, has really played against the American farmer in the game this year. But from a long-term standpoint, the farmers are looking at some pretty decent numbers to put corn out, for 2021, 22, out there into the out years to begin planning to plant corn. So, this is going to cut down about 600-700 million bushels into the corn carryouts is what they're looking at. The other real problem is we've got a gangbuster hard wheat crop coming in out of western Kansas and the Panhandle, which is the cash wheat trading under corn out there, deep west in the prairies is that wheat's going to go right into the feedlots and cut deep into corn feeding as well. So the game is just, as Sherlock Holmes would say, the game is just afoot right now in the corn market, and we're going to be talking agronomy, I guess, all summer, which is pollination and yields and stuff like that. So Ag Twitter is going to be live for the next 3 or 4 months. Pretty good for us.
No doubt. Who's benefiting from this?
I would say the farmers who were setting on, 16, 17, 18 corn. They were looking at, just 5 weeks ago, we were looking at 362 for D's corn, which was absolute debacle. And then, of course, it turned, and now we've hit a 455. So we've had a good solid 93 cent rally in corn. So, those are the folks that probably thought that their 18 and 17 corn crop was just going to be, really bad news at the elevator. But, they've gotten these numbers to help them out on that. The real problem, going forward with the 19 crop is, we don't know where it's at the moment. We're beginning to get suspicions. Like I said, there's areas where it's going good, but that strip through Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio is really going to be the key to what the marginal pricing action of corn is going to be for the next 3, 4, 5 months.
Not to date you, Q, but how long have you been trading?
Well, I started with Pillsbury March of 1980. I was actually walking corn during the drought of 1974 as a kid. So, and I was hoeing soybeans in 1970. So that's been almost 50 years. So I've been around the block a few times.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is because I wanted to know, after all the years you've been trading these markets, is this what's happening right now even tradable? Should traders even be looking at this as an opportunity, or is this something that is more of just watching and just people that have to do stuff, that have to trade, such as hedgers and farmers? Is this for them?
This is definitely a tradable market.
It's a tradable market.
Absolutely. The only truly untradable market was 2008. It was just, we had no idea where that stuff was going. The Canadian Wheat Board was short spring wheat, and it could have gone to infinity. So it was one of those things where it blew through, $14, $15 a bushel in spring wheat. And I had no idea where that thing was going to stop. But, we had a situation here where, like I said, Brazil is coming right now with 100 million tons. And, the basis is acting, about where it should be. So this is definitely a tradable market right now.
I want to move on and talk about beans. What are you seeing there? I know that's pretty wild as well.
Well, we had a situation, of course, with the trade war, and then with the dollar strengthening and that sort of thing. But the real issue with soybeans is the fact that somewhere between 150 million and 200 million hogs have died of that swine flu, ASF as they call it, and that's about a third, 25 to a third of the entire crop of hogs in China, And of course, we've also seen 2 million hogs have to be killed in Vietnam. So this is a big, big problem over there. And that is demand that has to be rebuilt. I mean, you just can't create hogs to eat beans. So those herds have to be rebuilt. It's probably going to take 2-3 years. I'm not a real hog person as far as understanding that husbandry, but it's similar to when we had to we had a bunch of hogs sold after the 2012 drought. Corn went to $8.30, and the hogs moved into the market because they weren't going to pay the corn to feed them. And then it took a couple years to get the hog crop rebuilt, I guess is how we put it. So, the real problem is we've had a noticeable drop in demand from China, and we're talking 24-30 million tons, and that correlates just about to what we expect for the number of hogs that are dead from the flu or this fever, whatever they call it now. And it's it seems like this bean crop, we talked about it, a year or so ago, and beans were at $10.60, and it's just like everything went wrong from that moment you and I talked all the way to right now. And it's really been, it shows how susceptible bean demand is to China, because, we essentially grew an extra billion bushels of soybeans to sell into China. And now that demand is really questionable, and we can't get any decent information out of China as to how many of those have really died.
Is this a tradable market too?
I would say yes. And, we're seeing the relationships holding, the spreads are working. So it's just, the difficulty is when you can't get decent information, when you're dependent on China for information, you pretty much have to, close your eyes and open your checkbook and go. But at the end of the day, they haven't bought it. So we have to fill in the blanks by what we're seeing coming on the back end of the data. And, this is what I've been talking about for about 6 months, is that this hog problem in China is the big problem for the soybean market.
You mentioned tariffs a little bit. What does the American farmer think about the tariffs?
Well, I think they've been, they see that they're against them, but I think that it's more a game of the body politic, and I think it's beginning to dawn on people how China's done business since they entered the WTO, and people just have to understand. Me as a software and mathematician type, it's you have to continually, keep these guys away from stealing all your stuff, to be perfectly honest. And of course, all of our software giants couldn't get in to China at all so that they could protect their industries. So the idea that we had free trade out there, in my opinion, has been a joke. And, Trump has turned up the heat on everybody. Whether tariffs are the right move or not, I'm not the president, and, I barely got C's in economics in college. So, but something had to be done, because it's just, the idea that fair trade is out there is a joke.
How do you manage trades in this type of an environment?
Like I said, with China, if you're really dependent on keen information out of China, you really have to open up your risk parameters. And, that's very, very difficult to do these days, because, they just don't tell you what's going on. And you have to read between the lines. And I'm sure that there's some of these larger information outfits that have satellites, and, they probably know what's going on. But, they don't get on Twitter and tell us, us poor regular traders, what's going on out there.
I want to talk about deep learning, because I know that you use deep learning in your strategies.
Yes.
So before we even get into how you use it in your strategies, can you just tell everybody what deep learning is? Yeah.
Deep learning is the lowest subset of the field of artificial intelligence. And it's really, if you think about it, it's really how humans are human. Okay, if you think about it, Ben, artificial intelligence is of intelligence, and that's where we talk about how we recognize things, faces, how we recognize patterns, how we recognize voices, how we translate language and understand that sort of thing. And then as you go deeper into the process of how humans think, you get through machine learning, which is, gathering large amounts of information and trying to optimally understand what it says. But deep learning is at the smallest level. And it's really about how our synapses work to make a single decision. So it's like whether you say, buy beans, sell beans, and you're looking at a chart, and it's really about having this, if this information happens, then you sell. If this information happens, then you buy. And it's really about breaking the thought process of how we trade as, intellectually how we trade. And that's been what I've been doing the last 3 or 4 years is just sitting down and saying, how do I know that wheat is going to go up, or how do I know that the KC Chicago is going from 20 to 30, and begin to actually code that in. And once you begin to code more and more of it in, then you begin to get more of an intellectual process where you can continue to build on these neural networks, as they're called, and each one of these little decision points is like a neuron in your brain that fires when you you see light and you say, okay, I know it's daytime. I mean, it's just as simple as that.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the show so far, but I want to pause and thank one of our sponsors, Trading Technologies. I started using TT in the year 2000, and I love it. It is by far the best trading platform I have ever used, and I've tried a lot of them. With TT, you can trade the global markets from virtually anywhere in the world. They are the world's fastest commercially available futures trading platform. I highly suggest you go try out TT, especially because you can try it for free. Just go to tryttnow.com and set up your account. I mean, how do you go from being such a huge wheat trader, because you were a monster wheat trader for a lot of years, to now doing this? How did that all happen?
Well, there's two things, Anthony. The first thing is that I was an astrophysicist and a mathematician first. I mean, that's what I really wanted to be in college. And I just stumbled into a finance major and stumbled into the Chicago Board of Trade, and the rest is history. And I like to think that I'm a mathematician that paid my bills by trading wheat. And I love computers. I love algorithms and mathematics. And everybody who knows me knows I'm just one of the top eggheads around. But I'm constantly reading, and I've stayed up on the field in cosmology and galactic astrophysics and all these sorts of things. And I still enjoy reading. And the irony is that probably the most wild class I had in college was linear algebra. And I said, there is no way in hell I'm ever going to use that. And it turns out that linear algebra is really the basis of deep learning, the mathematical process we're using. And I would have never thought it, but I've had to pull out all my books and reread them. And it's really wonderful that I had all that mathematics in college. But the other thing is, and we talked about this a bit, I keep mentioning AlphaGo, that documentary on Netflix about Google's DeepMind project, where they defeated the world champion Go in Korea, which is an absolute colossal event of achievement for the software. The thing is, Anthony, that what they learned how to play this game, they mastered it, and they beat the world champion. Then what they did was they took the algorithm set, and now they're able to use the same mindset, and now they're looking at brain cancer, and it's actually performing better than humans at detecting cancerous cells. So it's just amazing once you build this process where it can turn next. And this is why I think it's absolutely a critical field where we're going. And we're at the very, very, very earliest stages of what this process and field can do.
What have you taken from your days on the floor as a trader and implemented to your current strategy using deep learning? Well,
what I've done is, this product that I built with this new company called Croptomize. I spent my first 3 years on the trading floor with Pillsbury as one of their, commercial grain traders. So I understand the commercial hedging market and everything else. And it occurred to me that if I could use a simple process to help build a little product that could help time hedging for grains, then we would have a major step forward. And so I did it. I built it. I tested it out. It's working and working on the market in 2 months. So it's just one of those things where, a lot of these products that, they look simple, but there's a lot of math behind them. But yet, they perform extremely incredible functions that we thought were impossible, just 4, 5, 6 years ago.
You sent me a message the other day. You said, Anthony, there's a lot going on right now with AI. What exactly are you seeing happening?
Well, the thing is that they're taking these prototype engines like AlphaGo, and they're going into the medical field and they're testing them out. And, the fact that they're able to this quickly see, cancerous tumors and to make the right decisions about what to do. And they're actually outperforming doctors right now, which is kind of scary within the first year. And, it's got me thinking that, what is a medical field going to look like in even 5 years? And of course, Google and, Tesla with this, these cars that drive by themselves, and, what's it going to be when you call an Uber and there's no driver, you just hop in and go. And, it's going to be like a Star Trek, Star Wars kind of world here in about 10 years from the looks of it. And the other thing, of course, is with the algorithms taking, in my opinion, getting stronger and stronger in the markets, I'll be surprised if there's actually humans trading in 10 years. So it's going to be difficult to beat these guys when these algorithm sets get smarter and smarter and faster.
Last question before I let you go, Q. You and I chatted after I went public with my heart attack, and you said that you have had some issues and you've also made some changes in your life. Talk to us about what happened, if you're comfortable with that, and what you're doing now to work on the issues you had.
Yeah. I went to get my annual physical, and, doctor took a look at my blood pressure and said, "Holy crap." And so it's one of those where, I'm 64. I've been at this game for 40 years, and it's just time to dial it back with a super high stress. And so I've stepped back from trading, completely, and for the last year or so. But the thing is, next time you see me in the pits, it'll be my AI version. So it'll be AIQ. And but it was one of those things where it's like a wake up call, just like you got, and blood pressure, and what do you call it, hydration, and all this other kind of stuff. Because you just run, you forget to drink water or whatever, and drink so much coffee and iced tea, and Malbec, of course, and then you've got to worry about your hydration and everything else. So it's really for me, I was in my 60s. If I remember correctly, you were in your 30s with your problems. So
yeah, I was 36.
Yeah, and I had some pretty wild days in the pits where I thought I was just going to keel over and die, and in my 30s. So I know exactly what you're feeling like, because it's absolute pressure cooker, in those pits and trading, and especially when you're up against deadlines and the market's really putting it to you.
Yeah, and I feel that as traders, we put so much pressure on ourselves because we want to perform well all the time, and we always get so focused on our strategies that we don't take the time to put into ourselves, invest in ourselves outside of that. And last thing for today, Q, talk to all the traders out there. Like I said, I look up to you. You've been doing this a lot longer than me. I have nothing but respect for you. Talk to the traders out there and give them a message as to some ideas of what they should be doing to be going beyond the charts.
Okay. What I've discovered is that with these 18-hour grain markets, it is absolutely essential that you just decide that you're going to trade X number of hours a day and just get some discipline around it. I get that, there's a couple of wild nights where you're going to do it, but the notion that you're going to sit in front of a screen from 7 o'clock at night till midnight and then get up at 6 and then do it all day long, and you got to find balance, or else these markets will eat you up. And I've seen it over the years, the marriages, and I've seen probably a dozen guys just drop dead. So, if you don't get some balance, these 18-hour markets will kill you. And the other thing is that these algorithm sets can trade 18 hours a day, and they don't get tired and they don't forget. And it's just, you're playing against the odds. So it's really about deciding when you can trade and when you can actually perform a good function and get balance with that and your family and children.
Yeah, absolutely, Q. I tell everybody all the time, find balance when you're not working. Take that mental time away from it, and you'd be surprised how much fresher you are when you come back. And actually during those times is when I come up with some of the greatest ideas I have for markets. It's like things just settle in, and then you start, when you get back to your screen, it's just, you're so much more clear,
Yeah. And the thing is, Anthony, what I used to do is I used to live out on Lakeshore Drive, and I'd walk back and forth to Border Trade to work. And like 2 or 3 days a week, I would stop in to the Art Institute on the way home on Michigan Avenue, just go into one of the galleries and just sit down for about an hour and just decompress, look at the water lilies of Monet or something like that. But it really helped me to get away from the super, super quick pressure and get back home. And, that always helped out. So it's really about finding some things where you can, get off the pressure, I guess the pressure train. And, the thing is we were trading from, 9:30 to 1:15, and damn near killed me when I was in my 30s. This 18-hour stuff is murder on these guys. So I wouldn't want to be around these guys when they're 50 if they keep this up, to be honest.
Yep. Take breaks, everybody. Q, you're the best. Where can people find you on Twitter, and give us a website to check out?
Okay. As usual, at statfutures.com, raising hell on ag Twitter, and Croptomize with an O.com is my new website with my new company.
Q, thank you so much for coming back on Futures Radio Show.
Anthony, anytime. Hit him straight.
Thank you for listening to Futures Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for myself or my guests, please visit futuresradioshow.com and sign up to be a premium member for free. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes.